I fit to your picture. Yo, sorry, I was waiting for it to count down. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Sorry if you caught me singing. I do that. Sometimes I don't realize I'm doing it, but in any case, welcome back to the channel. This is United vs. Everybody, not an audition for The Voice. My name is Sean, and I'm your host, and we are back with a Man United News Roundup. Loads to discuss today, lots of striker news to talk about, some exclusive interviews. If you guys are not Sirius XM subscribers, I will recap something for you to hear. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on some of that. So we are going to get stuck in. Who is jumping in? Danny B in the house, my PIC. How are you doing, my guy? Got thoughts on the South American stuff later on. I'll come back to you for that. But big up, everybody. Hope you are enjoying your Thursday. Hope it is going well. It has been muggy and hot where I'm at. High 70s yesterday. It's probably going to be in the 80s today. So, and I get to be stuck inside all day working on stuff. I've been working out, been trying to get some stuff done. I've got a presentation I got to do for this PFA class in a couple hours. So, like literally 5-minute presentation, but I'd rather write a 40-page paper than do a 5-minute presentation. So it is what it is. But once that gets done, just going to lock and load. We got some matches coming up later on today that I want to get stuck in on. So in any case, let's dive in. Like the video if you haven't yet, please. Subscribe to the channel if you are new and you want to get involved and be a part of the United fan channel that makes sure everybody's opinion is heard. Check the membership perks if you guys want to learn how you can get involved in the content. Don't forget to use my GoGoalShop code when you register if you want to get cheap jerseys that don't throw money at the Glazers, but you also want to get $5 off when you use my code. Jump on that. And right now in the UVE store, everything is 20% off for a limited time. Sale will not last long, so take advantage of it if you guys are interested in anything. They come in tees, hoodies, sweatshirts. Women, I got you covered. There's women's options too. My wife loves like the long sweatshirt. She likes those kind of long looking sweatshirts, but go check those out. Like I said, 20% off for the next few days. Let's get stuck in. Let's see who else is jumping on. Rich, big up, man. Hope you are doing well out there in Wales. How are you doing? I just watched an episode. You guys ever watch this guy, Jaume, on YouTube? I just watched the episode this morning while I was working out. He was in Wales, actually. He was learning some Welsh, and I got to tell you, some of the names y'all got out there in Wales for some shit. It's just like, let's just grab every letter we can, all the letters in the alphabet, throw them all in there. And you know what? Why don't we just repeat them like 8 times? We'll get a letter. We'll get a word that's like 50 letters long. But big up, Rich. Hope you're doing well, man. Danny, have you on the speaker in the background? We're a good deal, man. Hopefully, everyone else is a United fan. Rich says, I quite like presentations after I start speaking, but stress beforehand. I do not like giving presentations at all. I am not a fan of public speaking. It used to be so bad, like in college, I would get like nauseous. I don't like it. It's a little easier if I know people. And just for anybody, it's way easier if you actually prep and you know what you're talking about. Thankfully, my presentation, my 5-minute part of it for my group is on empathy. I volunteered for that portion because as a therapist, it's one of the foundations of what we learn about. So figured it was pretty much going to be simple. So speak for 5 minutes, maybe answer a few questions. Bish bash bosh. Don't sue me, Alice. I don't know why I started saying that so much recently. I watch Alice. I don't watch Alice a ton, but I know she's the only person I've ever heard say that. So I don't know why it just started popping up in my head. Red Devil Rich, how do you set up the store? You know what, man? It's like there's like a link. If you go to like your studio kind of thing, and there's like a customized, there's like a shopping thing. There's a list of different things you can use. I just clicked on one and started exploring, and just started designing on my own, on my end. I've got a logo website that I've used in the past for other things that I just kind of experiment a little bit, and go from there. But we will see. Every consonant. Yeah, dude. I watching this guy, like Jaume's it's gotta be like a weird superpower for that guy, because he literally, it'll take him like a half hour to learn language. It's ridiculous. I had to do a lot of them, so I got used to it. What he said though, like, and what this woman was telling him when he was speaking is like, when she grew up in Wales and she was in school, like a long time ago when she was younger, because she was like in maybe her mid-40s or whatever. Like they didn't teach certain subjects like some of the sciences and some of the maths because in Welsh it just didn't really translate. She said they really only started teaching some of that in the last like 10, 15 or so years. I thought that was very interesting. It seems interesting to me that there are some countries that, and Jama said that it's like that in some other countries too. It was really interesting because it's not like math is English, right? Like it's math. Science is science. So it's really interesting the language, how language works. Rich says daunting when having to speak in front of directors initially, but you get used to it. I'm just not a fan of public speaking. Like I would rather write so many, and it's not like there's anything wrong with it. Like some people would prefer to speak in public. I'm more introverted. I've got a bachelor's in writing. Writing is much more easier for me to do, so I would just rather write a paper on my own than work. I don't like group projects. I don't like presentations. Just give me a paper, let me write it. It'll be done in like a day. It's not that hard. Big up, Rob. I'm just about to watch Beth and see you live. Well, you're more than welcome to. I'm sure Beth is much more preferable for a lot of people than me. Um, but big up everybody. Big up. By the way, speaking of big ups, big up to Jamie Vardy. He did announce today that he will be leaving Leicester at the end of the season. He has not retired from football, but he is leaving Leicester at the end of the season. So the dude's been there a minute. He's my age, still doing it. Obviously not doing as well, but I mean, Leicester. We all remember Leicester's tremendous season, right? 5,000 to 1 odds. Big up in their FA Cup victory a few years back as well. I mean, as United fans, we're not huge fans of Vardy, right? Didn't he break Rude's record like at Old Trafford or some shit? We all remember that beast volley that he scored against us in that tremendous season they had. But Vardy, I mean, Leicester legend, right? We'll see where he goes next. If Rude sticks around, because Leicester are relegated, if Rude ends up sticking around, and there's gonna be a striker size hole in that squad because Patson Daka just ain't doing it. I think that they were hoping that Patson Daka they could replicate the whole Sadio Mane thing from the Salzburg stuff, but that didn't happen, did it? So, but if there's a striker shaped hole in that squad now, I wouldn't mind seeing someone like Musa or maybe even Cheeto going on loan to Leicester, maybe learning a bit from Rude in terms of just finishing and things. So I don't know, maybe Hojlund needs to go there too. I don't know. But big up everybody. Darko, big up, man. Did talent like Vardy deserve a bigger club? I mean, he was linked with some clubs for a while. I'm surprised. I mean, honest to God, this isn't me just trying to take the piss, but like if Woodward and stuff were still here, I would not even be shocked if we grabbed him as a free agent in the summer. If I wouldn't. It's not even something that I would bat an eyelash at because that's just what you expect from the old regime. So that's probably my biggest thing, right? Joe, big up, Joe. He says you are technically doing public speaking now. I mean, I guess it's easier, like I said, when it's something like I don't look at this like presenting. I look at this as I'm just talking. Like, I look to you guys like we're all just chilling at a pub, or if I'm on the phone and we're just talking about footy. Like to me, this is the easiest thing in the world to talk about is football. I could go on and on. So I love having more people to engage with. So to me, mentally, I guess you are right. I guess I don't look at it the same because it's not like I'm sitting in front of a room full of people and I'm like teaching or I'm being informative or anything, or I'm being instruction. It's just, this is us just talking. So just imagine there's a pint of Guinness in this hand and we can say Sláinte and just keep it up. But big up, Joe. Good to see you. Hope everyone's doing well. Love seeing all the people in here. So speaking of strikers, though, so we talked a little bit yesterday about this youngster, Enzo Canabiec, who forget what club, La Harva, I think he was at, but he will be a free agent in the summer. But it sounds like, according to outlet La Parisienne, this kid has agreed to join United. We saw that yesterday. We were linked that we were going to grab him as a free agent. So it sounds like that has been agreed according to this French outlet. And it sounds like what's going to happen is he's going to be loaned out to Lausanne Sport, who obviously are owned by Ineos and the Swiss League. I like this move if this is going to happen. I like utilizing those kind of outlets. If Sir Jim's going to hold on to Nice and Lausanne, whatever, I get it. If that's what you want to do, I still think he should sell Nice. But there's no reason we shouldn't utilize those as resources for our youngsters or some of these loans. we've got players in the academy who maybe aren't quite ready for the step up to United, but maybe go play first team men's football over in Lausanne, something like that, or even or Nice, if that's the case. Get some football, utilize the resource. What's the point of having a multi-club model if you're not going to be able to kind of massage that a little bit? So if you're not going to sell Nice, which I think he still should because he can get a lot of money for it, just use it. So speaking of young players, though, Dan Gore is back in training. If anyone saw that, he's back training with the first team. Remember, he was sent out on loan to Rotherham, I think it was. He played just one match there before he picked up, I think it was like a fracture or something in his foot. During training. I don't even think that was a match. But since then, he's been recovering at United, which I don't know why he would come back to recover at United because that's just asking for trouble with our physios. But it's nice to see some of these youngsters getting more minutes. It's nice to see him recovering. Guys like Dan Gore, Montato, Heaven, Fredrickson, Amas, they could save us some money in the summer. And I know as fans, we don't tend to look at the financial side, but we know that we know that we're in a PSR shitstorm right now. We have to also factor in finances sometimes, which is why we talk a lot about free agents like Jonathan David and whatnot. But it is a point of pride to see some youngsters coming through. So I wouldn't mind seeing guys like him featuring heavily in this preseason on these bullshit preseason tours, the Premier League Summer Series. Ugh, do me a favor. You guys know I can't stand preseason stuff, friendlies. Moving on, another youngster. So reportedly, this is coming from James Ducker with the Telegraph, but he claims that United are believed to be among a number of clubs that are currently monitoring Man City's James McAtee. McAtee, along with O'Reilly, has really had kind of a breakout season these last few months or so. It is refreshing to see that at City. It's not something you see a whole lot of, but what it sounds like right now, though, is McAtee kind of wants assurances regarding first team minutes. We know that Kevin De Bruyne is leaving. Phil Foden's form has kind of fallen off a cliff. Gundogan's old. Bernardo Silva's probably on his way out short, and not maybe this year, maybe next summer. So sounds like McAtee sees an opportunity and wants basically assurances, maybe similar to like what Cole Palmer wanted, which is what apparently he wasn't given that. So Leverkusen reportedly made a bid for McAtee back in January. They were bidding for a loan with a 35 million option to buy. So we know that he's in demand. And City have also been linked with a couple of attacking midfielders too. So I'm not surprising if true, this McAtee wants to know that he's got a future here. I think honestly, after Cole Palmer, if which honestly Pep doesn't get enough shit for, by the way, but if they let go of another young player who goes on to do tremendous things, like Pep and City are on next level fraud watch. They're already on fraud watch this season. This season is an absolute failure by their standards, I guess, if you want to call it standards. But the Cole Palmer thing, he doesn't get enough shit for. If they lose McAtee or something and this happens, like, that's, come on. Alias, what's up, Alias? Good to see you. Nice to see some people who not only like jumping in the chat, like new faces, but people who know each other too. I like that. Get the community growing. I like that. So let me know your thoughts on McAtee. Is that someone you would like to see at United? Is that someone that you guys think is United level? I know we've been linked to a lot of these youngsters who've been making waves this season, guys like Dibbling and whatnot. Turkey, obviously, people have been watching Turkey for a while. But let me know, because I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I watch a ton of Man City matches. I watch some, but not a ton. But obviously McAtee's making waves. But I wouldn't mind McAtee. Just depends on cost. If 35 million was turned down, I mean, that's a little too much for me to want to spend on someone like McAtee. That's more than I want to spend on someone like Mestan Tuono or something too, because Turkey is cheaper. But what it is. Get ready for new striker links. We've gone through so many. Osimhen stuff won't go away. It seems to be like this battle in the media right now for Delap versus Osimhen. Turkish outlets claim Osimhen's the number one target. Other outlets claiming, not only is Osimhen not on our agenda, but Delap is actually a number one target. So it's anyone's guess how this is all going to land at the end of the season. But we got a new name linked, and this time it's from La Liga. So Diario AS journalist Eduardo Burgos reports, now again, these are just reports. I don't write it, I just read it. But he reports that United have inquired about Villarreal forward Alex Baena. I feel like we've been linked to him in the past. Someone remind me if that's true or not. I can't remember, but this doesn't seem like the first time we've been linked with Bena. Problem is he's not really a striker. So I know the reports are calling him a striker or whatever. He's not really a striker. He plays on the left wing for Villarreal, so I'm not sure where this is coming from. But like I said, I don't write it. I just read it. So as Rob says, hit those like button and subscribe. Yes, please do. It does help the channel grow. Danny says probably prefer Cherki, more experience around the same price. Yeah, Cherki ticks literally every box. He seems like he's got the personality to handle playing on this stage. He's got the skill, right? His numbers this year for goal involvements have been immense. He plays in a position that we play. He's cheap. He's a good age. I mean, name me a box that he doesn't tick. Maybe you can say maybe Premier League proven, but you guys know I don't really value that as highly as a lot of people do. So, but if you do, no problem there. On strikers, though, David Ornstein now claims that Liam Delap is, in fact, our main striker target. Ornstein also doubles down and claims that United are pushing to complete deals for both Liam Delap and Mateus Cunha early in the summer window, before selling anyone even. So, according to David Ornstein, he says, these are our top two targets. We're getting it done regardless of whether or not we sell anybody. It's not a sell to buy situation for these two, which, I mean, take that with a grain of salt, as always, because we all know the shit show that we're in financially. But it would be nice to see us just moving for targets. Like I said, Ineos like to put out this whole we don't want to run to the wrong decision. And I've said, why not run to the right decision if the right decision is there? So this could be an example of that. This is who we want. These are our main targets. They're gettable. We're already working on that. Let's just get it done. Get Amorim his signings. Ornstein goes on to say, again, like I said earlier, Osimhen is not part of United's plans. That directly contradicts a lot of the reports we've been getting from Turkish outlets. Now, I'm not saying don't believe them just because they're from Turkish outlets and Osimhen is at Galatasaray, but it's just the only strong Osimhen links I've seen have literally been coming from Turkish journalists, Turkish outlets, and so it's interesting, right? And I think there were maybe like some Tutto Mercato or something that we're talking about, or Calcio Mercato that we're talking about, like Napoli, Garnacho, Osimhen. Haven't seen those links in a little while, but Ben Jacobs chimed in as well, and he adds that the reports linking Osimhen to United are, quote, wide of the mark. And he actually says, Ben Jacobs, that it's more likely that Osimhen goes to the Saudi League, which is where he reportedly wanted to go last summer. Now, Al Hilal were name dropped in this report because Al Hilal had reportedly set aside a budget from Mo Salah. Now that Mo Salah is staying at Liverpool, Al Hilal have the budget, and I think I read too that what's his face? Who's the striker that used to be at Fulham? Mitrovic, that he will be leaving. So they're gonna have a striker-shaped hole. They're gonna have some budget, so could be a situation where we see Osimhen go to the Saudi League, which again, it is such a bummer. Now, I get it. Players have these are their livelihoods. They've got families and what. I get it. They want to make sure they're set up, but it's just sad to see young players, in their peak going to the Saudi League. I'm not trying to offend anybody. It's the Saudi League. Come on. If people want it, people are going in on the Chinese League. People are going in on MLS even. Like we can go in on the Saudi League. It's not a serious league. And having players like Ruben Neves, now Osimhen, John Duran go to the Saudi League literally at the peak of their powers is I don't know. It's a bummer, right? But I don't know. What do you guys think of the Saudi League, and what do you think about the Osimhen potentially going there? I think if Delap is our striker target, and we keep Hojlund, and we get Cunha as well, it kind of sort of feels like the plan is to spread the goals around a little bit. Maybe have a striker who's on like 15, 16, 17 goals. Another one like a Hojlund who's maybe on like 10 or 11. Then you have like Cunha who's going to pitch in with a dozen, maybe Bruno as well. It sounds like instead of having one person responsible for getting like 24 goals, we're kind of spreading it around and making sure we've got, attacking options, attacking contributions from all other areas on the pitch. So like I said, it wasn't necessarily that I thought we always needed a striker that could score goals. We needed a goal scorer. And if we can get a couple of them in, who knows? But that's kind of what it sounds like. Maybe instead of relying on one main striker, we're spreading it out a little bit. Sounds like Cunha is almost, is pretty much a cert though. Both Romano and Jacobs are optimistic of our chances of getting that deal over the line. Romano says United are confident that personal terms are not going to be an issue. Jacobs adds that nothing is progressed or finalized yet, but he reports that Cunha does want the move. He reports even that we will have a meeting next week to take the next steps on that. So keep a lookout on that as we head into the closing weeks of the season. And as silly season itself starts to ramp up, we're probably going to see all sorts of craziness. Danny says, would you take Mitrovic at United? Well, he's got to be like 28, 29, right? Mitrovic, because he was already like 26, 27 when he was at Fulham. He is kind of one of those poachers, right? This big body in the box kind of. Do we play with that kind of striker at United anymore? This isn't Ollie anymore, where we get somebody wide, put a ball into the box. This is, finding the ball in the channels, getting a lot of movement kind of thing. So I always like to have different options. If we're going to use Maguire as that sort of option late on in matches like we did against Lyon, it might help to have an actual striker, but hey, Maguire's getting it done, so what do I know, right? Big up, Ricardo. Good to see you again, my friend. Hope things are well over in Lisbon. You guys have any questions about Amorim, you let Ricardo know. He is our inside source here. But like I said, we need goal scorers, striker or not. I can't help, though, when it comes to Delap, right? I can't help but worry about the possibility of Delap sort of getting the same treatment that Hojlund's been getting this year, especially if Delap doesn't come in and start banging in goals right away. If he's our only striker, even with Cunha, like if people are already going to go in on Delap. Now, there are some people who say it doesn't really matter if he's 30 million relegation clause, like that's a snip, right? But we United fans are nothing if not flip-flops, right? And I do think that a lot of the fan base will immediately start going. I think, and I don't know if it's necessarily Hojlund or Delap or anything. I think what it is that it's been 12 years since we've lifted the title. 12 years of this same shit over and over again. 6 managers, all these big name players come and gone. A lot of negative optics this year with Ineos. I think people are starting to get at like the end of their tether just the way things have been at the club. And I think the impatience is at an all-time high. And I think that as impatience is high, the time that people are willing to give players is getting, it's inversely proportionate. The larger the degree of impatience, the less time people are giving to these players. And so I do worry about that because I don't see a ton of differences between Delap and Hojlund in terms of just age, profile, goal output, all that stuff, development, phasing. And so I hope that, he's not swallowed up by an impatient fan base, but it is what it is. I wouldn't expect 20 goals from anybody that age. I definitely wouldn't demand it. If it happens, it's a bonus, right? It's not the norm, but what are you going to do? Rob says, wonder what happens with Ethan Wheatley when his loan ends. Yeah, I mean, he's Ethan Wheatley. What has he got to be, like 18, 19 now? Some of these players are getting at an age where they're probably ready for first team, maybe not first team at United. And so maybe Wheatley's one we can maybe look at sending out on loan to Leicester or even selling to Leicester, or maybe throwing him at Ipswich or something. There's options. We have players that we can use as make weights, if that makes sense. Now, I don't like looking at our players strictly as, these assets, but that's the way it's done. It helps if you look at the players sometimes as in terms of contract and not the players, because that's definitely what clubs look at when they're when you're buying a player. You're not buying the player, you're buying the contract. That's how the clubs look at it. That's how it's treated on paper. That's why people say their value is this. Like, it's hard to monetize a value based on intangible characteristics. That's why the value is on the contract, things like that. So it is what it is. Strikers, who knows? In before we're linked to Luka Jovic, by the way, after he scored a brace in the Coppa Italia semifinal. Yeah, Luka Jovic is still playing. So I'm in before we start to see links to him. On Delap, though, there's one person who really doesn't rate Delap all that highly, and at least as highly as Osimhen, And that's former United striker Dimitar Berbatov. He had this to say about Delap and Osimhen. He said, if you're a defender and you see Delap leading the line for Manchester United, you're smiling, you're comfortable. But if it's Osimhen, you instantly drop 5 yards, and that shift creates space for the players around him to exploit. So Berbatov not quite as sold on Delap as he is on Osimhen. And I think basically what he's saying is it's like, again, you could put any other name in there beside. You put Gyökeres in there, Haaland in there. And I think he's just saying, like, Delap's not there yet. Delap's not at a point where defenders are having to be kind of weary about him. They're not at a point where they're worried about him yet because, he's probably a little bit unknown, but he's just not there yet, developmentally speaking. And you could say the same thing about Hojlund. There's a reason that defenders are wrestling Hojlund. And I'm glad to see that refs are starting to call those fouls because it's been happening for months and they're never getting called. But defenders, they don't want to get spun by Hojlund, so they're going to get into a wrestling match. A lot of people are accusing Hojlund of wrestling. Like, the defenders don't want him to run because he's quicker than they are, but they're not afraid of him. Basically, getting back to what Berbatov has said, same as Delap compared to an Osimhen. They're going to be a little bit more weary about Osimhen because he's 26. He's at the peak of his powers in terms of being a striker. He's a proven quantity, in football. Hojlund, Delap, these guys are not yet, and so it just is what it is. Danny says, I'm not sold on Delap, but I hope I'm wrong. Yeah, like I said before, I don't think he's bad, but he's definitely not the answer to our goal-scoring issues. But again, it kind of feels like that maybe we're just looking to spread it around, not have just one kind of put all our eggs in a striker basket. I would much rather we get a striker who just is proven, who puts away goals, who doesn't need 100,000 chances, whose movement is a striker we don't have to develop, a striker we don't have to look at him and say, okay, well, in a couple of years, we're going to know if he's the real deal or not. Like, I get it, 30 mil relegation clause, it's hard to resist. And if it does work out, it's only going to be good for us either on the pitch or financially. If it doesn't work out, at the end of the day, it wasn't a big waste of money, but we'll see. If you look at it, like, Delap for 30 million, Zirkzee for what, like 30 some odd million, I can't remember now off the top of my head, and Hojlund for what, 62 million. I mean, 130-ish million for 3 early 20s strikers is not bad. The problem is that none of them are doing tremendously well. So it is what it is, even though we know Zirkzee is a 9.5, as he said. Get your 9.5 shirt in the UVE store, by the way, for those Zirkzee fans out there. Danny says probably another loan or loan. Yeah, Ethan Wheatley probably. Now, there are going to be players who are not going to want to keep going on loan after loan after loan. But again, Wheatley, the last time I watched Wheatley at United, great pressing, great energy, great movement, not great finishing. Even when I've watched him in the academy, he scored some goals, but a lot of times it's just the finishing was just not quite there. But Ricardo says, Conte says you can pick the wrong woman, but you can't pick the wrong striker. I mean, Antonio Conte would be the go-to, right? Daddy says, if I'm Delap, you'd probably be hesitant joining United because after 6 months, the fan base would want his head. Yeah, that's like what I was saying. I think a lot of the fan base will use that, and they'll hide behind the excuse of, well, we just have standards. You guys are letting our standards drop. And it's like, it doesn't have to be this black or white thing. Like, I have standards, yes, but sometimes you can't always just buy the finished article. You can't buy a 20, 21-year-old and just expect them to be world-class unless they're literally like Erling Haaland or something. It just doesn't happen. Or like a João Neves. It doesn't happen. Those are outliers. Anyone who compares every signing to someone like a Messi or a Haaland or something, it's a fallacy. You can't have an argument with these people. So I think there's a balance, right, between being patient and, expecting, having higher standards. I think Ten Hag could have done well, a little better talent identification, maybe a little higher level in terms of the players he was targeting. Like, I think he was looking at Ajax level signings, like Malacia, no offense to Malacia, at United, for instance. So there's a fine line, and I think it's going to vary player by player. And I think the big factor as well is the fact that we are literally heading into like the first summer of Ruben Amorim's rebuild basically. And so I think when you look at where we are in our project right now, that has to factor in as well. We're not at a place two years down the line where we're looking for that final piece of the puzzle like a Cantona or something. We are early on where we've got to build, we've got to clear deadwood, and then it's probably going to take another couple summers before we really start to see the full squad. So if we can get some good business, this is a very important window. If we can get that business done early, get a big portion of this squad, improve the depth a little bit. Maybe not all the players are going to be always guaranteed starting 11. You want players challenging each other for that, but we need to raise the floor in terms of the depth in this squad and the quality. And I think that we've still got guys who were signed under Louis van Gaal, for instance. We've got Jose Mourinho signing still. This is where we're at right now. So Rob said, could the Swiss club start buying these youngsters and give our PSR a big boost? Well, then you start dancing in Chelsea territory and stuff would start. I don't mind using these clubs for loans and development and whatnot, or even kind of as pipelines like the Red Bull Group does. I don't know what the rules are in terms, because you have to be able to prove you're doing fair market value for these players as well. Which is what some clubs are kind of getting done for a little bit. I think that was one thing that City were looking at a little bit. And then, like, if we're in European competition, like we all saw what happened with Nice. If we're both in the Europa League, we can't buy from each other, which I think is a stupid rule. I think it is what it is. But this is also why I don't like the multi-club management, especially with the Nice stuff. Like I don't like that it causes complications like that. I don't like that it splits your financial priorities. I'd rather Sir Jim and Ineos sell Nice. You can get like 600 million for Nice. That can be used to put a big chunk towards the debt at United, put a big chunk towards the stadium. You could split that in half, pay off 300 million debt, pay off a bunch of the stadium rebuild, and be well on your way. Now, in the grand scheme of things, it's a drop in the ocean, but at the same time, it would send, I think, a big positive message and tell us that, Sir Jim, hey, we're focused on United. This is the priority. We took the money from Nice. We put it towards United. It is what it is, kind of thing. I think it would put him in a better bargaining position and leverage when it comes to ownership as well. And he could just buy more of the shares too in the club if that's his thing. But I think it would send a big message. But it's not my money, so what are you gonna do? Kai, big up, man. Hope you're doing well. We are still just diving into the news, man. Let us know your thoughts. So Berbatov, not as keen on Delap as he is on Osimhen, and I get it. Nothing he said is not valid, but again, you never know how a striker is going to turn out. On attackers, though, I asked you, I put a poll out on where you guys think Rashford will be playing next season. I posted that on YouTube this morning, I think. Not many of you think that he will be at United. Not many of you think that he will stay at Aston Villa. And nobody really thought that he'll get his dream move to Barcelona. I think besides like one response was that he'll go someplace else. So if that's where do you think Rashford is going to be playing his football next season? If it's not at United, if it's not at Aston Villa, and it's not at Barcelona, where's Rashford going to be playing? Napoli? Is that an option? Maybe you go rejoin McTominay a little bit. Maybe he'll go to Milan, Inter. I don't know. You guys let me know where you think Rashford's going in the chat. So let's jump into this thumbnail stuff regarding Rasmus Hojlund. Hit that like button for me if you haven't yet, guys. Subscribe if you are new. So I don't know. Like I said, you guys know I listen to Sirius XM. It's pretty much the only thing I listen to in my car, unless I'm listening to Lithium, which is the 90s alternative and grunge channel, because I'm a 90s kid. So if I can listen to some people might have heard me singing Pearl Jam a little bit because I didn't know we were live yet, but that's my stuff. But I do listen to Sirius XM FC all the time. I call in regularly to complain and correct, because Tommy Smith and Rodney Marsh have no fucking clue what they're talking about most of the time. But Rasmus Hojlund called into the football show yesterday around 9:30 in the morning, and he spoke with Charlie Stilitano and Rocky Ray Hudson. You guys know who Rocky Ray Hudson, a big La Liga commentator, but spoke with them for about 10 minutes or so. I'm going to get water. Allergy season. So this went down during the Serie A segment of the show, which Charlie Stilitano is a big speaker on, because he's Italian. He loves Italians. But really, they just kind of spoke to Hojlund about some of the differences between Atalanta and United and the national team. Um, he did have some things to say about that, though. So let me dive in here a little bit. Let me see what you guys are saying. Danny says should have went to Milan when Ibra offered him the deal. Yeah, I mean, it would have been if they had sold Rafael Leao, who I don't think is really any different than Rashford personally. I think Leao, Martinelli, Rashford, they all kind of feel like the same to me. Like they're decent, they're quick, but they're not great. If that makes sense. But yeah, he could have. He could be. I mean, Milan are doing pretty well though. They did the number over Inter yesterday, so big up. But here is what Rasmus. So he was first asked about the second leg against Lyon and what that was like as a player. And he said, "Scenes that was. If I can be completely honest, though, I was at one point sure that we were going to go out of the match." So Hojlund admitting that he thought that at 4-2 down that it was done and dusted. Then he says, and then again, Old Trafford and the team showed great spirit, stuck to the plan of the manager, and we ended up with the win. I mean, I'm right there with you, Hojlund. You guys know I held my hands up after that result when we did the match reaction because at 4-2 down, I was sure it was over as well. There have been other seasons where I might not have felt that way immediately, but we've just been so poor this season. I had zero faith in these players, but very happy to be proven wrong. Very happy to not have to go and start planning for all the youngsters that we were just going to stick with the rest of the season. Happy that we still have something to play for in the Europa League. It's a big ask to get something over this Bilbao side over 2 legs. They are very good, but we did handle Sociedad pretty well. We beat Barcelona not that long ago. Real Betis, teams like Porto. I mean, we struggled. Lyon, we put 5 past Lyon, so you never know what can happen on the night. But Hojlund was also asked a little bit, like I said, about the difference between playing for Denmark and playing for his clubs like Atalanta and United, and he said this. He says, I guess it's different. It always is. It's different sort of pressures. Playing with the national team is more of a proud sort of feeling. I'm very honored and very proud. Proud is probably the best word for it. So he's saying, like, when playing for your national team, again, you get to represent your country. This is where you're from. For most players, a lot of players, it's not where they're from. Maybe their grandmother is Polish and they're American and they want to represent Poland. Like somehow that's how it happens. It is what it is. But that's what he had to say about playing for Denmark. About Atalanta, he said, and then when I played in Atlanta, it's very dynamic, offensive football. The coach, Gasperini, he helped me a lot when I was there. It's not where United are. It's not the same sort of pressure. You can walk down the street, in Bergamo, and even if you haven't done well, like you won't get treated poorly or anything. Because the expectation is not to go and win Serie A at Atalanta. They're more of a development club, he said. And they're doing an amazing job. They are on the rise. So I'm not sure how Atalanta fans would feel about him saying that. But it's not as if he's saying anything that's not true, right? Atalanta are not usually seen as the top contenders for their league. They're not usually seen as big European powerhouses. They did win Europa League, so big up them. But typically they are seen as a little bit of a developmental club. Obviously, Lookman's looking to move. We got Hojlund, we got Ahmad from Atalanta and whatnot. So, you never know what could happen there. He's asked on United. He said, United is, for me, the top team in the world in terms of pressure, and there's so many expectations. I love that path because that's why I'm here, which means there's expectations on me. So I must have done something right. And he laughed a little bit when he said that. He said, but it's about owning that pressure instead of becoming hindered by it. That's the key. So he likes the pressure. He says that there's expectations placed on him, but he must have shown something for United to believe in him so highly. He says it's a hard way and it's a difficult way to find out, but as long as you keep calm and stay focused and keep working on things you need to improve, you'll end up in a much better way and hopefully reach that goal. I hope you're working on things you need to improve, Rasmus, because, like scoring goals. Uh, but like, in all seriousness, it doesn't. As far as working on things he has to improve, it's difficult, right? We sacked Ten Hag mid-season. Rude came in, and then Amorim came in. You've got three different managers, three different systems. Um, and obviously, when you sack a manager midseason, it doesn't really mean things are going well. And like Amorim has said, it's not all on Rasmus. Everybody's kind of struggling right now to find the back of the net. But I do kind of feel like there's not been, amidst all of that that's been going on, I don't feel like there's been a ton of focused coaching kind of on Hojlund. Like, this is what we're going to work on. There's not no Benny McCarthy, things like that. I'm not seeing a whole lot of differences in the things that Hojlund is doing or perhaps not doing, more importantly. I think he and the club, Hojlund and the club, really need to consider, again, dedicated personal coaching like Cheeto did when he was in the academy still, with RH coaching, working on different movements and touches and things. I think that there needs to be some focused attention on those aspects of a Hojlund's play that maybe he struggled with this year, like his hold up, his strength, knowing, when to put your back to a defender, when to take a touch and spin off the defender, how tight to get to defenders, things like that. Because I do think that he's some of the best parts of Hojlund's game are suffering because of the way either he's being coached or the way that he's trying to play, if that makes sense. And so he needs that space. We saw that opportunity he had against Wolves that he ended up messing up because he didn't find, his teammates on the far right side. But that turn at midfield to get past that Wolves player and get all that space, that is Hojlund's game. That right there was Hojlund in a nutshell. And I think we need to do more of that. Early balls, play those around the back into the channels, let him work, let him run onto those balls, or let him take a touch and create that space and work in those channels. That's where you're going to see Hojlund thrive. And for several months, around mid-season, around January, March, whatever, we were playing Hojlund as his hold-up striker, and it was just not good because it's not his game. It's just not. So it is what it is. But you guys, anything stick out to you in that Hojlund interview? Like I said, it was only like 10 minutes. I wish they would have asked him more thought-provoking questions regarding things like his form, where his head's at right now amidst all these things, the pressure of being United's like only striker, going from one system to another, the differences in what he's being challenged to do and things like that, et cetera, et cetera. Good questions. I wish we would see more good questions from press conferences in these interviews. We just get very watered down, like these little friendly. I mean, like, not, I don't want questions like they were asking him, like, hey, is the food better in Italy or Manchester? Like, come on. You got this kid, Manchester United striker, talking to you for 10 minutes. You're going to ask him about food in Italy and Manchester. There's no contest there. There's literally no contest. Manchester's got some great restaurants, like Hojlund said. I love a lot of their restaurants. Honestly, if you're ever in Manchester, before you even go to your hotel or everything, get on the tram, get off at the mall, the Arndale, go to the food court, get yourself a duck burger. Get two. They're the best thing I've ever eaten. They asked him some shit too about whether or not he's been to the U.S. because the whole spiel was about this preseason summer series for the Premier League or whatever, because Premier League is coming to the U.S. like they always do. So I'm not sure what the issue is. But they asked him, have you ever been to the States? Like, did you not watch him when he was on preseason? Like, what the hell are you doing? It sort of just felt like a way to plug this Premier League summer series stuff. Which, again, you guys know I don't really care about. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. A friendly by any other name is still a friendly. I don't really care about it. Summer Series, Nations League. You can throw it as all the money in the entire world at the Club World Cup, and it's still a friendly to me. Throwing money at it doesn't legitimize it. It really doesn't. All it does is make owners like drool, and the managers couldn't care less. The players couldn't care less. I doubt you're going to see a ton of the first teamers in some of these tours, at least not till later on. You might see some in like the Kuala Lumpur match because it's like a week after, so they're still kind of on that schedule, but you're not going to see them. Like, give the players some time off, for fuck's sake. I mean, that's ridiculous. I know that people in different parts of the world, especially in the U.S., they want the chances. I get it. Not everyone can fly over to Manchester. I get that. But at the same time, as a United fan, I guess I don't like seeing all this extended travel. I don't like seeing all these extra minutes put on player legs. I'd rather see some youngsters. I'd rather see some players that are coming back to fitness get in there, because I care more about that. But that's just me. I don't speak for everybody. So, but that was that interview. It was interesting. I would not have even known that interview was happening had I not gone to the grocery store. And so I made sure I got home, put it on the computer, recorded it, transcribed it, and made sure you guys got the main talking points because that's how I roll. Anybody watching any midweek football this week? I did. I watched the Milan Derby, the Coppa Italia semifinal yesterday, which Milan won. Inter did not look great. They were struggling a bit, but yeah, Milan did win. Anyone who's on Arden Yashari watch Club Brugge play later on this afternoon. I think it's like their domestic cup. So I can't remember who they play off the top of my head, but they will play if you guys want to catch that. I think it will be on ESPN Plus. So if you want to watch that and see why the hell I'm talking about this kid all the time, you can go watch that. And then anyone on Franco Mastantuono watch. How good does this kid look this season already? Like, such a level up from what he was doing last season. I mean, he was I think he played in the Copa Libertadores last night. He's already got more goal involvements than he had last season. He's only a handful of games in. Fox Sports in Argentina claims that we are set to activate the release clause. 38 mil is a little high for a guy who's not even 18 yet, personally. Again, Turkey is cheaper. But I do like Mastantuono. He had this brilliant little moment of skill last night where he was dicing people left and right. He got tripped. He fell. He kept the ball while he was on the ground, turned and diced another player and found a teammate. Like, such determination and such skill to keep the ball in that moment. So I like Mastantuono. 38 mil is a lot of money, though. So I can't see him going to Madrid. They've got like 1,000 number 10s, a bunch of midfielders there. Maybe someone like City will take a snap. Although City, don't they still have Echeverri or whatever that guy's name is that went out on loan? Or is that Chelsea? I think it was City, though. Chelsea have that Kendry Paez guy. Everybody's got a young. Maybe we just need to join and get on the South American young number 10 watch. Robs has only seen clips of the Argentine prospect, and he looks fantastic. Yeah, he looked good last night. His numbers this season are already very, very good, better than all last season. I think he really, really stepped up a bit during their off season. He looks really, really good. But still, 38 million. That's like 50, almost 12, 13 million more than what Turkey could cost. Like, that's a no-brainer to me personally. It's a no-brainer. But I do like Mastantuono, so I had to give him a bit of a shout out there because he did look very good. But that is going to do it for me, though, you guys. Not a ton to go on, but I wanted to get your thoughts on some of the Delap stuff, some of the Hojlund interview and whatnot. Again, keep a lookout for the big news. If anything major drops, we will be back. Probably going to do a match preview of this Bournemouth match. Not going to be a happy one because I don't see us getting points here. We just been turned over by Bournemouth too much. They're not as good as they were early in the season, but they can still handle us on their day. So keep a lookout for that, you guys. Go check out the store. Like I said, there's 20% off everything in the UVE store right now for a limited time. So there's a couple of shirts in there. You get them in hoodies, sweatshirts, t-shirts. There's women's stuff in there right now. So it is 20% off. Go check that out. Check the memberships too to learn how you can get involved in the content, from what if episode ideas to scouting reports, questions from a boot, all of that. Please like the video. Please subscribe. Rob says we're gonna smash Bournemouth. Maybe if we just stick Maguire in the box through the whole match and just use him as our number 9, we can get a better shot, because that seems to be the only way we're gonna score right now. But in any case, we will be back for that. Of course, if there's any breaking news between now and then, I will be back to get your thoughts. But thank you, everybody, for jumping in today. Always a pleasure. Good to see some new faces as well. Hope everybody enjoys their day, and I will see you guys on the next one. Later.